This tutorial is an introduction to Voice over IP, and the various terms you may have heard of. This is to help you understand the difference between them. Remember, this video is a basic introduction to help you understand the key concepts. There are additional videos available on our channel that discuss some of the points we will be talking about in significant more detail. In this video, we will talk about what is VoIP, VoIP in comparison to traditional telephony, session-initiated protocol, how SIP calls work, registration versus IP authentication, company phone systems, VoIP lines and SIP trunks. This video is supported by VoIP Yonder, instant low-cost VoIP lines and SIP trunks for UK organizations. Go to www.voipyonder.com for more information. What is VoIP? VoIP simply means Voice over Internet Protocol. In simple, the transmission of voice over an IP or data network. This can be a private network such as your home or office, or across a large network such as the general Internet. VoIP has been around for a while and was initially used on mass in messaging and social network applications and internal company phone systems, also known as a PBX. How does VoIP work in comparison to traditional telephony? Telephony traditionally has meant a dedicated voice cable into homes and offices. This has used technologies such as ISDN and SS7. In the world of VoIP, also known as next-generation networks, NGNs use existing data transmission technology. VoIP is also known as over-the-top, as it runs over the top of your broadband connection. In the traditional legacy world, a physical line had to connect into telephony equipment. This could be a single phone or a phone system. In the VoIP world, there is a significant increase in flexibility. You can use specialist VoIP phones which can be desk or DECT-based. You can still physically have a PBX internally, or you can use a virtual PBX, also known as a hosted PBX. This technology also enables the ability to turn your smartphone or laptop into a phone using an application called a softphone, which forms a virtual phone. Session-initiated protocol, the basics. SIP is the key technology used for VoIP. Think of it as the NGN equivalent of ISDN in the sense that the cable is the data or broadband line and ISDN is the technology. SIP works by splitting a phone call into two key elements: signaling and media. Signaling is messages that contains the user's information, call setup information, status of a phone call and so on. The media can be voice or video. This is run on real-time protocol, also known as RTP. Sometimes when configuring SIP, there can be issues such as one-way audio. This is usually in relation to issues with firewalls, routers and network address translation on RTP. How does a SIP call work? A SIP call starts with a message that invites another party to begin a session. This message is called an invite. An invite contains details on who originator is, which includes the originator's phone number, codecs that can be used and how to get back in touch with the originator, and the destination, which includes the user, number and IP or fully qualified domain. On the point of codecs. A codec is simply the compression protocol used to compress the voice. Codecs G711 and its variants are the main protocols. G729 is also another popular codec for bandwidth purposes, but is CPU intense. Once an invite has been sent, a response is made, either requiring authentication, or a session making progress, which is also known as ringing. A fail code can also be returned, such as 404 not found, which are similar to web address responses. Here is an example of a SIP call flow that rings, but does not answer. The number 5060 refers to the port the signaling is on. 5060 is the standard port used for SIP signaling. It can be seen that an invite is made, where an initial response is made which says it will initially try to find a route. This is then followed by a making progress. The person making the call would now hear ringing. After a while, the person making the call cancels the request because there is no answer, and the party called acknowledges that the call attempt has been cancelled. The calling party acknowledges this with an OK message. To help understand the logic, we recommend you pause the video to study the diagram. Now we have explained the basics of how SIP works. We need to talk about the connection options. Firstly, there are two key types of authentication in SIP. These are registration, or IP authentication. SIP registration is great if you are roaming, i.e. your IP is not dedicated and can change. Registration is done using a username and password and updates periodically to refresh your location, i.e. to know where to send incoming calls to. SIP registration is usually done for individual handsets. IP authentication is done when your IP is fixed and will not change. This is usually done for phone systems. A private branch exchange, also known as a PBX. A PBX is a phone system. It can be dedicated or hosted. A PBX has extensions which are usually user accounts where a SIP device which can be desk phone or soft phone can register to the PBX. A PBX then user sets up a trunk connection to their provider. This could be either IP authentication or SIP registration. A PBX not only can allow a business to receive and make calls, it can also have intelligent features that allow queues, music on hold, time of day routing, voicemail, IVR menus and much more. The final part of this video discusses the key difference between a VoIP line and a SIP trunk. As discussed previously, we have talked about SIP registration and IP authentication in relation to PBXs and user extensions. This is similar to VoIP lines and SIP trunks. A VoIP line is designed to connect a SIP-enabled phone, which can be a desk phone, wireless DECT phone with base station, or software for a mobile or computer directly to your provider. Think of it as a phone line coming into your home or office. It is simply for making and receiving calls which do not require a PBX. It is easy to get going and a good way to experiment with VoIP. A SIP trunk on the other hand can be thought of as a trunk line such as ISDN. You set up a connection between your provider and PBX or other telephone equipment such as a session border controller capable of handling multiple concurrent calls and distributing these calls onwards. Calls then run over this connection. You can think of a PBX setting up SIP lines for its extensions if we used what was discussed previously. Therefore, to summarize, Voice over IP is the next generation way of making and receiving phone calls using an IP connection. SIP is the main protocol used. SIP splits a call into signaling and media elements. VoIP lines are for phones and usually registered. SIP trunks are for phone systems and usually IP authenticated. If you're UK-based and looking for a low-cost voice over IP line and SIP trunk provider, as well as get a free 03 and 0800 number, go to www.voipyonder.com.